Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and understanding more about the transition between AX to D365. Before we get started, I just wanted to say thank you to our partners for the session. So that includes Arrow, Micro Focus, and Microsoft as well, who have joined us on this session. And a big thank you to Jens from Microsoft, who will be speaking at the beginning of the session. So the session that we have planned is basically talking about the migration from AX to D365 and looking at the different things that maybe might push you to make the leap into D365. Maybe there are specific benefits that we can talk about that might be interesting to you. And then also, once that decision has been made, what are the things that need to be considered to make sure that this transition is successful? So I'll just go on to the agendas. Firstly, Jens will start and he will talk about, from a Microsoft perspective, the journey to D365 and what the benefits are and what Microsoft are going through at this moment in time. Then I will move into talking a little bit about Testhouse. Then I'll talk about why you should make the leap to D365, what you need to consider when you've made that decision, and how QA gets involved in D365 implementations. And finally, we'll have a short question and answer session. So a little bit about me before I hand over to Jens. My name is Nathan. I'm part of the Testhouse team. I'm the head of business applications. I've been with the organization for around 9 years now. And for the majority of that time, I've focused very heavily on Microsoft Dynamics and D365. So that's a little bit about me, and over to Jens.
Thank you, Nathan. Yes, my name is Jens Østland Christensen. I work from Microsoft in Denmark and Iceland. My role is territory channel manager for business applications. So, and my territory is non-managed customers. That is what we call SMB, and the business applications. That is both the Dynamics and the Power Platform. Give a presentation of how Microsoft see the modern finance and why the cloud, why we think it is the right decision to move to the cloud. This is the agenda I will go through. I think I've covered the introduction of myself, and then I will give some words about the transition into the cloud and what we see as what is modern finance, and then in the end, the next steps, how you can learn more about our products in a very free, easy, and with no cost. So it's pretty much how do you want as a customer? How do you see yourself in let's say 5 years, maybe 3 years? What do you see as bottlenecks, and what do you see as how you want to move? Where do you see yourself in the future? And can the systems or the solutions you have right now, can that really cover what you see yourself in the future? That is something I think many customers are asking themselves right now. That's what we see in Denmark. This is how we see the modern of Dynamics. That will both be the ERP and the CRM. What we want from Microsoft is not only make us a solution that is siloed. We want to have data move from service to service, and what we really want is help our customers to optimize operations. How can we make you work even more efficient than what you do now? And one of the things is data to flow. Then we want to empower people, so people you have hired can do more with this. They can do what they like to do and not do so many manual stuff that they might do in an old system. And then we want you to have an easier way to engage with your customers. Send out the right marketing material, have the right talks with the customers, could deliver the right service at the right time. And then in the end, we also want to help you transform your products. We want to make it easier for you to have a faster go-to-market and faster in the way you can change your product or your services or make new products and new services for your customer as the market changes. So, and that's why we have made this earlier on. I think if you come from the AX, you probably saw most of it as part of the AX, Dynamics AX. Now we changed that into having a lot of different kind of modules. We have sales, which you know as CRM, human resource. We have the finance, that's what we are talking about today, finance and the operations part. Which is more the ERP part, and then we also got commerce and customer service, and in the end marketing. That's what we call the Dynamics part. And then we also have the Power Platform. The Power Platform is applications that you can make with low code or no code. We have a Power BI, as you probably know, and virtual agents and so on. All of that is the glue that covers or make all of these services, the data flow. So it's more like the glue that connects all the services that we have. And that is what we want you to look into when you look at the finance in a modern way. The benefits that you will have, what we see out there, is that many of our customers that have been on a Dynamics AX or another platform on-prem, is that all the customers, these here 30%, but all the customers, as we see, is considering the cloud, and most of them go actually when they upgrade to a finance and operations platform, they move into the cloud. That is what we see, and it's only with they have very special needs that they go on-prem because they want to have all the benefits that the cloud can provide. And then nearly 7% say that one of the biggest bottlenecks is the manual processes. And going back to what I just presented, is that is something that we want to change. We want to make it more automatic, more easy, more easy for the customers, and not have bottlenecks that stops the process. And then, of course, 65 want to have develop analytic skills. I don't want to go in depth with that because we have to take time and considerations. So what we have also see is that in the old systems, we see that a very isolated system. So you have the ERP, you have the CRM, you might probably have a HR service, you probably also have a marketing service. That is what we want to change, going back to the slides I just showed you. We want to have them connected. We want to have data flow in between so that you can, if you have a finance and operations, you can also use the Excel, you can use it in Teams, and also on the Outlook to make it more effective way of working than what it is. Maybe it is on the older system. Automatic processes still the same, and also we want to have apps so that can go into what you need as a customer. So we have a lot of ISV making apps that you can connect to your finance and operations. So it's not apps and it's as apps for professional use. So that is what we have partners out there doing for us. Then we want to, when data flow in between, we want to make it more effective for you. So we have in machine learning that can help you. So it's not only you who, as a customer, who add in data to the system. We also wanted to with machine learning to give you something back, make it easier for you to forecast, make it easier for you to do stuff. Or it could also be that you have customers who are not so good at paying at the right time. Then machine learning can say these customers over time have not paid at when they should. You should maybe change the payment agreements that you have with them. Then analysis, the next one, best of breed financial planning analysis, also core things that we want to have. I won't go into depth with that. Actually, as I said, we have applications made across the world. So before we move on to what we see as the future in finance, we want to have a centralized way of doing things. We want to help you have a better productivity. We also want to make it easier for you to use the tools that we have, like Power BI, Power Apps, and with common data service, or Dataverse as we call it now, having data flow in between. And then we also want to make it easier for you to do some automatic processes. So with Microsoft Power Automate, that can do something that you have set the system to do once a month, or trigger if something happens, then the system should do this or that, and make it a lot more easy for you and the customer to optimize the way you're working. So it's not only you who, as I said, type in data, but also give you something back for you to make it easier to make decisions. With AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, make it easier for you to do forecast, optimize cash flows, as mentioned. All of that is something that is meant to give you something back, and make it easier for you to make decisions, but maybe also give you insights of data that you haven't thought of yourself. Then we also see that a subscription-based economy. People don't want to own it anymore. They want to subscribe for something, and then you can opt out if they don't want to have that service anymore. And that is also something that is built in the finance and operations service. And then we have global finances complexity, of course, multinational companies, but also the requirements from the authorities maybe be higher now than it is have been for the last, I don't know, decades, because the move of money in between countries go a lot faster than it used to. And then innovate and adapt. Meet your specific needs as customer. We want to make it much more adaptable than it used to be, because the market is changing a lot faster now than back in the days. Whereas you have the same system for like 10 years with no updates. Now we want to have a platform that can meet your needs when it's needed because of the changing business environments. Then we have single source of intelligence. As also mentioned, our products, our services in Dynamics is built in a way together with our Microsoft 365 products and LinkedIn. It's made to work together when it's built. It's not something that we fix over time. So, now it can also do that. It's actually both of them are built to work together, and that is why we see the Microsoft platform as the best platform, because all of our products are meant to work together. So your company can collaborate across silos or teams in a much better way than on an old platform. Then you can also finance reporting. You can change that so it fits the team or role that is needed. And you can also manage to change the report as you want, as fits best to you as a company. And that is also something I think you can have done the same in AX, but it's just also to mention that that's something still you can do with an upgrade into the finance and operations. Now I just covered what we see as the future of our Dynamics, what we see that with the different kind of services, and also the modern way of finance, and what you can do with the different services, and not only in Dynamics but also in the Office part. But you can also learn more yourself. We as Microsoft, we have some learning paths and some learning modules free of charge. There's no cost for you. you can log in and you can do some learnings about our products and our services. I think it's for most of it, very easy. You don't have to be very tech savvy to do it. I've done it myself. So just go in there. You can make your own what you can call it path. You can of course take the path, but you can also make a agenda for yourself, or a calendar for yourself, what you want to train. So it's not only the finance part. We also have the Power Platform and the and other services in Dynamics and Azure and the model work. So go in there, take a look. I would really recommend if you're interested in learning more of our Dynamics and finance product. I think that was all for me. I'll pass the word back to you, Nathan.
Thank you, Jens. That was great. That was really useful, and it's good to hear from Microsoft directly what they're trying to put forward to the clients and the benefits that they would get. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. I wanted to give you an insight into who Testhouse are. I assume that some of you may not know much about us. So we are an independent QA testing and DevOps consultancy. That is what we have done since our inception in 2000. So we're headquartered in the UK, in London, where I'm based at the moment. And we also have offices, well, we quickly built an offshore center in India. So we have a large presence there, but we also have offices in the Middle East. We have an office in the West Coast in the US, and also an office in the East Coast. And we've just recently opened an office in Australia as well. We've had two focuses over the time we have spent in the industry. One of them is banking and finance, and the other one has been Dynamics D365, especially over the last maybe 5 years. So it's really been a key focus for us. We've built up a number of clients where we have supported them on different modules. Not all of them will be FinOps. Some of them will be on the CE side. Some of them will be on sales, marketing, all the different modules within Dynamics. Some of them will encompass all of them. So I think that puts us in a good position to really understand what the challenges might be. You know, our view has always been to reduce risk for any program. And that is what we try and resolve over time. And we have about 500 employees. We're a gold partner of Microsoft for DevOps, for Azure, for Dynamics, and we're very close partners with Micro Focus as well. The way I'd like to start is, why should you migrate? First thing to mention here is end of life and support. There is it is quickly coming to an end. Some of it has actually come to an end already. So as most of you may know, mainstream support has already ended for 2012 and 2012 R2. And what that means is there's no functional upgrades coming out to the product. There's no updates from Microsoft. They're also not considering support incidents for functional issues for the product, which is obviously a concern for a number of customers. If something breaks, it won't get fixed. But the more important one, I think, is extended support ends this year. And with that, it's not just the functional updates that aren't coming out. The security support incidents will not be handled either. So Microsoft have given a large window of time between the two to allow people to get prepared. But of course, this is a very big transformation. It's something that you know we have to deal with, but that's something definitely to consider. Third-party support is also something you can look into. So if you're moving from AX to if you're staying with AX, then third parties can help you with the development, with the testing, something we can help with as well. But from our perspective, our suggestion would always be to take the leap to D365. And you know, we obviously now have spoken about these risks that are coming with the end of life. There's also a number of benefits, some of which Jens has touched on. So from one side, you can look at the applications in the ecosystem. There's the ecosystem is really growing with Microsoft, and I think we can hone in on business applications specifically. So not just FinOps, but you also have sales, you also have marketing, you also have customer service, a huge amount of modules which cover the whole CRM ERP suite and can run your whole business. And it really beneficial to a lot of clients. What I've tend to see in the market is they adopt one module, then they adopt the next one, then they adopt the next one, and all of a sudden they have a whole suite of applications that integrate really well with each other. And that is something that is very difficult to do if you have products from a number of different vendors. The Microsoft ecosystem, the wider ecosystem, is also really important, not just D365, but how that integrates with Office 365, which I'm sure, 99% of the people on the call are using, or how it integrates with Power Apps, or even LinkedIn to talent and to sales. The integration has got a lot wider. There's even a feature in Teams where cold calls can be tracked and the text can come out into CRM. So really impressive stuff coming out from the ecosystem and how it integrates together. And then thirdly, the third-party integration. So what I mean to say there is, with the cloud-based version, the integrations are a lot more readily available and they're a lot more extensive. So it's something to consider. The integrations will be a lot more powerful. And the next batch, I think, of benefits that you can get from it, you have the new one version and Evergreen. So with Evergreen, there's no more big bang upgrades for Microsoft. With one version and Evergreen, there's no more big bang upgrades. You have one final version, and it's very similar to Windows 10 in the sense that Windows 10 was the final version. There won't be a Windows 11 or Windows 12. But you'll have continuous upgrades coming out throughout the year, which will give you the latest and greatest features as it's available. Data management and intelligence. So taking that data and manipulating it to show you the right information across your business. So for senior management, you can see really good reports that come from the way you're handling the data. The licensing model is a lot more suited to different sizes of companies, different types of companies as well. And cloud in general, you can have a more efficient solution, a more scalable solution. Now we've gone through why you should migrate. I think it's also important to look at, what do you need to consider? What are the things you need to look at when you're doing this migration, when you're starting this journey, or when you're in the middle of this journey? There's a number of things you should look at. So the first one, the planning and requirements, that's how we start any journey off in this situation. You need to understand what the business requirements are. You need to pair business and IT together, really have them aligned towards a common goal. So the business goals and the IT goals are very well aligned, very important to have that and have that from the beginning. So what do business want? What can IT do? And then align that as best as you can. And from there, you understand the requirements, you establish the scope, and everything is a bit clearer. And then what you can do is, once you understand the scope, you engage the right partners. So engage the right partners, but also engage them as early as possible. So the idea is that, you identify what solution you're implementing, identify what might be the risk areas, and then cherry pick your partners to suit that. So whether it's implementation, test, support, whatever it might be, those are all things to consider when picking out your partners. I think it's really important to understand what are the core processes within your business. So if you can understand, how AX is really being used, what are the key ways that it's being used within the organization, it may be that those changes that you have made in the past to AX are no longer necessary. Maybe they're not part of your core functionality, and maybe that it's not as important anymore. And you don't have to replicate that into D365. And similarly, what you need to do is, once you've understood the core processes, you want to map that to what D365 can actually do. So D365 has come a long way since AX 2012. There's a lot more features. It's suited to a wide range of industries, but also sizes of companies with different processes. So I think it's really important you understand, maybe there is, in a lot of cases, this is true. There's a number of processes within D365 already which can carry out the functionality that you need. So that's something that you should look into as well. And when you're doing customization and configuration, please note that any customization, any configuration, there will be an impact. It may not be tomorrow, it may be in a year from now when you adopt a certain upgrade, but there will be issues that come from customization and configuration. So yes, you choose Dynamics because it can do these things, but we want to limit that as much as possible, and it will save you some maintenance time in the future. The data migration is obviously key. Majority of you will be moving from another application. In that situation, you want to make sure that you're evaluating the data that you actually need. What is the data that is valuable to me? Is it still necessary? Is it still something that the business needs? If not, then you need to start looking at cleansing your data. Remove the unnecessary or redundant data, or even store them in a different environment, and only move across what you really need to. And then you start migrating your data, the right data, at the right time. And it has a really good impact on performance. For one, it will make it a lot smoother, the product, but it will also allow you to have more impactful insights. So like I said, the insights coming from Dynamics are really impressive. It'll give you a good view on how your business is run, but you want to make sure that it's using the right data to show you that information. Otherwise, it might not be as useful. What you want to do is, when I spoke about requirements, you want to make sure that you're matching the skills that you need to the requirements that you have. So look at what the requirements are, find the right skills for those requirements, and then identify the risks as early as possible. And similarly, you want a cross-functional team. You want a team that has different functional expertise, but they're all aligned, they're all working together for the common goal, which is a successful migration. And with both of those things, once you do the mapping correctly, the risk over time is really a lot lower. If you start engaging that practice as early as possible, then what you want to do is reduce the risk up front rather than realize the risk later down the line. So it's really important that you understand the capability that you need, either get it in-house or engage the right partners. In this slide, quality and risk mitigation, as a testing company, this is something we put a big focus on. But for any migration, I think the only way that it gets measured by organizations is the quality of that migration. There is no other way to judge whether a migration was successful or not. So you want to look at the quality upfront. You really want to focus on how can I achieve this with quality, but also in good time and with efficiency as well. But the way to do that would always be to test early. If you test early, then you find the defects early. Fixing them is a lot cheaper and a lot quicker to do. So quality should be really at the forefront of your migration. End-to-end testing is really key because, say for example, you've implemented CE, now you're implementing FinOps. CE was a success, but FinOps, you kind of feel like it'll probably be a success as well. The problem is there's a lot of integration points between the two applications. FinOps might integrate with something else, maybe a web portal or an application that your finance team uses, and that poses its own risks. So you need to make sure that the end-to-end flows of your applications are working correctly. That will give you a good indication of how successful an implementation will be. If end-to-end flows work pretty well, then you know the product in isolation works, but it also works throughout other products. Maintenance, I think this is really important because what we tend to see is people adopt automation, but if you don't do it in a structured way, then you really do run into problems with maintenance. Like I said, Evergreen is a key theme for D365. And what happens is when an upgrade comes out, an object may move. And say, for example, you have 1,000 automated scripts and you've created it using Selenium, your own way with your own framework. The problem is when an object changes, it may break 200 of those scripts and you have to go through and fix them manually. And then the overhead becomes more effort than it's worth in some cases. What you want to have is a good framework that can minimize the impact of changes to the system and minimize the need for maintenance. So moving on is following the same theme. I wanted to focus more on automation. So automation, like I said, is key, especially in Evergreen. Adopting upgrades, you don't get a lot of time to do that. You get a minimal amount of time. Microsoft will issue the update. You have a small amount of time to adopt it, and you can't opt out of these updates. So what you need to make sure is that when the updates are coming, you are prepared to test for them, to make sure that they are not impacting your system. So you can do that in a number of ways with a number of tools. Microsoft have their own solution called RSAT, which is really great. We have a lot of experience using it. But the only challenge with RSAT is it only works with FinOps in isolation. So if that's something you really need to consider. If you go down the RSAT route, just know that the automation can only be handled within FinOps. It can't escape into, if you need to export something into Excel, you can't check that that is working through an automated script with RSAT. And you also can't do in parallel execution. So, for example, a client of ours is deploying FinOps into hundreds of different countries across the world. And you can imagine once you cross the 100 country barrier and you have 100 tests for each country, running those tests will be a very lengthy process unless you can run each legal entity at the same time. And I think that is a challenge. So you have to, weigh up the costs versus the benefits. But all in all, RSAT is a fantastic tool to be able to use for testing FinOps in isolation. So, like I said, minimal lead time to take these updates. Please consider that. It's not a situation where, okay, this is the last big bang upgrade. This is all I need to do. That's not really the case. You have a successful migration, but when you're doing it, please make sure that you're preparing for the future. Implement a good DevOps CI/CD pipeline. Implement test automation that is robust and maintainable, so that when these updates come out, you're ready to accept them. The confidence from the business is not that it's going to break anything that we're doing. So with the next slide, I wanted to talk about the QA involvement for D365. So I've gone through this a little bit in my previous slides, so won't spend too much time, but I'm happy to go through this with anyone. And I'm cutting it a bit tight, so questions might be a bit limited, but you can send me questions anyway. So there's three kind of pillars here, three stages and a number of pillars. But the first one is inception. So what you want to do is when you're going through the requirements and the planning, you want to define a QA vision for the program. And from that QA vision, you build a test strategy to attain that QA vision. And that is important. That is like what everyone will be following throughout this whole process. Then you want to start designing the right test environments, maybe UAT, system test, automation, regression, whatever environments you feel you will need, that needs to be set up. And then in the implementation phase, this is when the bulk of the testing happens. So you do DevOps and automation upfront so that you can save your time later for retesting and for new updates and stuff. Then you start looking at performance and security testing. Performance is really key. If it's integrating with a number of different solutions, Dynamics might not be the bottleneck, something else might be the bottleneck. And that's something we need, everyone should identify early on that this is going to be a risk, and also limit the expenditure that you're spending, because it will be more based on, the new licensing model will be more based on consumption than it is seats. So when it's consumption, it means that you have to manage it in a more efficient way. System integration test, that's obviously key within this process. Again, I'm happy to go through this in more detail with anyone specifically. Data migration testing, like I spoke about, is also key. You want to make sure the right data is in the right place. It's been mapped correctly. User acceptance testing, again, you want to make sure that the users are happy with these flows, but you also want to make sure that the users aren't testing what has been covered in test automation, what has been covered in system integration. And you also can't just tell users, go and test it. They will need guidance to make sure they do abnormal flows, to make sure they will do negative scenarios. All of these things needs to be considered. And then cutover testing as well, which is obviously the final stage through the implementation. And my final slide is just a little bit about some of the value adds that we as a group, Testhouse, Micro Focus, Microsoft, and Arrow can kind of bring to the table. And I think the main ones here, I'm not going to focus on each specific one, but the main ones here are the experience. So we have a large amount of experience working on these projects. We have a large amount of experience with the right tools across different vendors and implementing those on a dynamic suite. And then there's some statistics in here which we've taken from some of our existing clients. So you have a huge reduction in cost of quality over time. The test efficiency is better, and then in turn product efficiency is better. And that's generally what happens. Testing sometimes can be seen as the bottleneck, and that's something we try and remove. So yeah, just a few value adds that I think we can bring to the table. And that's the end of my slides here. My email address, Jens's email address is shown on screen now, but you will also receive an email with the slides and my contact details. So if you want to reach out to either me or Jens, please feel free to do that. We can offer 20 hours of free QA consulting to any of the people that have joined the session today. So if you're interested, please let us know. We can use them in a number of different ways. Automation, consulting, maybe we assess a certain part of the product and help you build a strategy for it. We can work with you to understand what your specific challenge is. Maybe it's a performance assessment or something like that. Number of ways we can use it. Let us know. But with that, I wanted to say, firstly, thank you to everyone that attended the session. Really appreciate you sparing some time in your morning to sit with us. And thank you to Jens in particular for being on the session, sharing some really interesting insights into the product. And thank you to all the partner organizations, Microsoft, Micro Focus, and Arrow for joining us. Like I said, I think it speaks a lot for the value of this message, and the importance of this message is really being driven home by so many global organizations being involved in the discussion. So thank you to everyone.